My name is Lirec Williams, and you're about to dive into my story. This part that in that time frame, like in that era, early 90s, 80s, in that time, the way that our parents or our grandparents raised us was we didn't have a voice, right? We didn't have a voice. We couldn't speak out of line, couldn't speak out of term. If grown folks talking, shut your mouth. Like, if they say something, you don't talk until, till spoken to, that whole 9 yards. But for me, it was like I couldn't voice my needs. I could never have a conversation with my grandmother and say, hey, Granny, like, can you stop hitting me for so much? Or like, can you stop? Like, I was afraid that when she scratched her head, I would duck no matter where I was. And she'd be like, don't be acting like I beat you. I'm like, yo, but you really do, And, this is hard for me to talk about. I don't know if y'all can see me kind of nervous here, but like when you tie that old school mentality that don't talk about mental health, my grandma didn't talk about her mental health. She just took medicine. And when she got off of crack, she went into opioids. She did cocaine for a while, and then she went into opioids. And opioids ultimately is the thing that took her kidneys, ultimately the thing that took her life. But I dealt with that addiction as a child all my life, and there was this need that I had that I could never explain to my grandmother. Now, my grandmother was loving us sometimes, and here's where I became a silent BPD, because there's some forms of BPD that was like, yo, I feel abandoned because I didn't get the love that I needed. But in fact, my grandmother did give me love and help me regulate my emotions by hugging me after said beatings, or, I was like, when, with the different things she would beat me with and leave welts and marks and all this stuff. And I remember throughout my life, like people from the school was like telling me, hey, are you okay at home? Like, they would send Child Protective Service multiple times, and I would be scared because my grandma would threaten to kick me out and send me to the white folks. Like, I don't even know who the white folks were at the time, but I was scared as hell of the white folks. Literally all my life I was like, yo, I don't want to go to the white folks. But I say that to say that I was and so like there's that's their part, that part of the trauma. And I'm just kind of trying to tie this in, but let's talk. Like I was saying, that I didn't get to voice a need. I didn't get to talk about my needs. Literally had to negate my needs and say, you know what? It's better if I just be perfect for me to receive love from my grandmother that isn't me getting beat all the time. I thought that I could not do anything good for so long that I became virtually suicidal at like 10, 11. Like I was banging my head. I remember how I used to put myself to sleep. I would like bang my head to a metal bedpost in order to fall asleep. Like I would just hit my head on things to try to like hopefully knock myself out and never wake up. Like that was the goal. I didn't know how to take my own life, but I tried things. Let's move into the part where it talks about parental space, right? Because that's my grandmother, and that's directly traumatic. So I didn't grow up with my mom for a huge part of my life, because one, she was 15 when she had me, so I don't expect her to be a parent like at 15. Yes, she was doing things that have kids, but no one ever gave her love either. No one ever gave her the conversation that, hey, you can say no to these dudes, these narcissists. You can say no to them. They're not good for you. You can say no. You don't have to sleep with them to prove your value. So there's all that stuff, right? But the way that my grandmother depicted my mom to me for so long is that she didn't want me, right? She didn't want me. I was unloved. She was beating me so that I didn't become like my dad. My dad was in prison for all the way till I was 16. And I think the first time I actually heard his voice was when I was 11. I was writing letters when I was a kid. I was writing letters to this guy who, like, I was a pen pal to this guy. I was like, oh, that's my dad. I don't really know That's all I really knew, is that there was this letter. I would write a letter. My grandma would send it, and it would come back. And so my grandmother, in her stints or in her mania episodes, would dog me out, hit me, beat me, make me feel like I'm worthless. Nobody wants me. She's the only one that loves me. She's the only one that ever loved me. And I had this like bad image of my mother in my mind for so many years, and I hated my mom and I hated my dad because they didn't want me, and I also hated myself because I wasn't good enough to be loved, right? And this is how I've processed all these traumatic moments of my life, or events or situations in my life as a child, and how I've suppressed those things, and it's become a framework in how I am today. I don't believe those things consciously, but I've created the wiring of my brain to process those experiences that look like that time. I've created my survival instinct based on that framework, essentially. And so that's my parents, that's my grandmother, that's the lack of parenting, not feeling like wanted or loved from my parents. And, my siblings, they made me feel like I was different, because I didn't voice my needs. I wasn't extremely vocal. And so people treated me like I didn't have needs, like I was a walking rag. And I've had some very love-hate relationships with my siblings as a kid. Like, I love them now. They're my babies. I love all my siblings. I'm the oldest boy, but all of them, they're my babies. Even if they're all grown. But going to school, I was bullied as early as kindergarten, as early as pre-K. I've always gone to low-income schools, and with me being neurodivergent in a sense, I didn't talk much. I didn't associate with people much. I was this kid that was getting taller, whatnot, but I didn't engage with, I was in places where kids were you have to be affiliated with a gang of some sort in order for you to be accepted, or you got to be cool, or you got to be like vocal. And I wasn't vocal. I was thinking all the time, and my mom makes fun of it now, but like, I had to process my world and understand how to survive before I can be comfortable enough to communicate. And so every school I've gone to, all the way to 11th grade, I remember the last time somebody bullied me for a jacket, and I fought him over a damn jacket. Like, and it wasn't because I wanted to fight, it's because my mouth was like that. So, it made him want to fight me. He had to fight me at that point. Like, but I say that to say I was bullied all my life. And when I say bullied, I mean picked on physically. I remember the names of people that I fought as a kid all the way through high school. Is that to say that there's let me get the right effect. That there's bitch in my blood. Nah, there ain't no bitch in my blood. But what I will say is that my survival techniques changed, because I had to fight so much. And like I remember distinctly a story when I had first started this school in Houston, Texas, Key Middle School. If you're from Houston, you know what this is. It's right in the center of three hoods: Trinity Garden, Cashman Garden, and Fifth Ward. And so everybody, all their brothers, everybody's big brothers, their parents affiliated with something, right? I go there. I just moved from Beaumont, Texas, the country, and I'm not really And when I moved to Houston, I was expected that I was to fight. Like my mom used to get on my case because I didn't like to fight. I didn't want to fight. My grandmother would get on my case if I did fight. So I would she would make it seem like I would make her sick if I got into a fight. And so I would take beatings for, usually my time frame was like 2.5 weeks. After 2 weeks of getting smacked on, beat on, pushed on, spit on, all that stuff, I'm fighting. And so But I say to say, when I moved to Houston, I didn't have that same leeway. When I lived with my mom at any time in my life, I was expected to fight. Like, if I wasn't fighting, I was a punk, right? And I think that's the same way that my grandfather was instilling in me at a very early age, which changed my relationship with him, because he did it. He was like, you ain't gonna be no punk, and he would hit me like it's gonna make me stronger, right? So like, it was like all these different formats of bullying throughout my life that I had to navigate. And so this moment, I remember distinctly when I first got to Key Middle School. There was a kid named Nico. I don't know what Nico's doing. Most of these kids are either probably in jail or dead, rest their soul. But it was a very terrible environment. And so this kid Nico and this other dude Jeremy, and I forgot this other kid that was like, their homeboy. It's the first time I ever got jumped in my life. And homeboy came and tried to stuff a cinnamon roll in my mouth. I was just talking to these two chicks or whatever, these two females, and he just came and tried to stuff cinnamon roll in my mouth. So I'm in front of all these people at lunchtime. I could not just let this man put cinnamon roll. So I pushed him, and he was like, "What's up? What's up?" I'm like, "Whoa, bro! I just didn't want the cinnamon roll in my mouth. I ain't want to fight." So, but I had to square up, and so I had to fight in that moment. I was fighting him, and then some dude jumped in, smacked me in the back of the head. So I'm fighting two people now. And then some dude came out of nowhere, swung. Like, I seen him at the last minute, and I ducked. It was like a Spider-Man moment. I was like, my spider senses were tingling, and I was like, ah, and I ducked, and he hit his own homeboy. And so I started fighting him, and then I was like just going back and forth until ended up like I fought enough people that two of them jumped off, and then I was just fighting one person. But I say that was like a rude awakening, a culture shock coming from a podunk town where I just got bullied by one person at a time. Like, so I've had a really hard life, a really tough life. And it's impacted me in this way where I didn't have my needs met. And I had never expected my needs to be met. So I never voiced my needs. And if I did finally voice them, it was in a uproar or anger stint, which is hard to get your needs met at that time. So all of that to say, this whole thing, this lays out the traumatic environment that I had to overcome. A caregiver, a supposed caregiver that was an addict, navigating how to be a caregiver at a young age to an addict, not understanding that their sickness means withdrawal, but also being at the foot of their rage and not really knowing how to be so that I can receive love and have my needs met, forced me to get into this thing where it's called fawn or freeze. When someone asks me about my emotions or how I'm feeling, I usually freeze because I don't know what my needs are because I haven't thought about them. Or if someone tells me about their emotions and they're upset with me, or they seemingly upset, or maybe I did something wrong, I will freeze. Or if they voice what they need and it's contrary to what I need, I would fawn, which means that I would go and I would just do whatever it is that they want me to do in order for them not to be upset with me. Now, if we take that and put that into my creative life, I can never get anything done because I don't have enough. I don't have an insight on everybody, what everybody wants. So I'm bouncing from millions of people that could possibly see what I'm doing, and I'm thinking about that. I could never get anything right, or anything done because I'm in a fawn mode, trying to please everybody. Let's think about even, being a father. I'm attempting to please everybody in my home, and I'm feeling left unfulfilled or feeling unappreciated or feeling like I'm just a pawn in everybody's life and doing everything for everybody, but nothing's being poured into me. Feeling unheard. There's all these things that I've experienced as a father, as a son, as a grandson, as a man. Like, I have needs, and every time I would start on what I need, I would make somebody else's needs more important than mine. And so something that I'm doing that maybe can help you, some things that I'm doing is that I'm voicing my needs. I'm discovering what I need and I'm voicing them unapologetically. Whether or not they get fulfilled or not, I am still voicing them. I'm working on setting boundaries with everyone in my life, and being mindful that those boundaries, they're not going, like, if I tell somebody no, they're not going to disown me. If I tell somebody no, they're not going to not love me anymore or reject me, and if they do, so be it. I'll still be here, still be pushing, still be telling other people no. But those are some steps that I'm doing. I'm being unapologetic about it. I'm working on completing tasks in this journey. As you reach out to me, I'm working on completing tasks and being consistent in completing things that I said that I would do, and making my relationships with people more deliberate, because I tend to avoid relationships because people are hard, and I'm hypersensitive to people and their emotions because I've been that way with my grandmother all my life, and I'm that way with my partner. I'm that way with my kids. I'm that way with friends, and so I'm working on setting those boundaries and using that superpower of understanding that empath power to make it work in my betterment rather than the detriment. So this is our journey. Thank y'all for tuning in. If you want to hear more about this journey, we have a couple episodes. We have other people's journeys as well as part of this healing series. Make sure that you tune in to those talks and stay tuned. We are going in. If you want to hear more about 15 Minutes with Dad, you want to take that pledge, go to 15minuteswithdad.com, take that pledge, and comment down below. What are some things that you've discovered from this talk? Like, what are some things that you relate with from these talks, and what part of your journey are you? In regards to understanding where your trauma and how it impacts your daily life today. Where are you in it? Whether you don't matter who you are, where are you in your journey, and what are some ways that you're trying to things you're working through right now in your journey? Let's share it. Let's all be vulnerable with each other. Again, my name is Lirec. Thank y'all for joining me for 15 Minutes with Dad, the healing series, Healing with Lirec. Love, peace, and chicken grease, y'all. Take care.
If you enjoyed your experience, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Make sure to turn on your notifications so that you don't miss another episode. You can like and share us on Instagram or TikTok at 15 Minutes with Dad. And remember, 15 minutes is a short time, but better than no time. Spend it with someone that you love.